Okay, so today we are looking at operations with our imaginary numbers. So if you look at the first one here, if those i's were x's, would you know what to do? You do the same thing. I handles just like any other variable. The only thing that you want to remember is when I end up with I to some power other than 1. If I end up with having an I squared somewhere, what's I squared really? -1. So that's the one that comes up most often, is we will get I squareds. So anytime you have an I squared in your final answer, it's not a final answer, because I squared is the same thing as -1. So if you see it, you're just going to change it to -1 and then go from there. If you happen to have an I third, it would change to -I, and an I to the fourth would just change to 1. Okay? But usually it's I squared that we come upon. So let's just take a look here. So on the first one, this is just an addition problem. What do I do with those parentheses? Do they mean anything? Not really. They're just adding this number with this number. Okay? I just have to combine like terms. Okay? So it's the same thing. You can ignore the parentheses. I'm just going to add the two normal numbers together, right? 3 plus 5, I get 8. And then I'm going to add the like terms together, the 4i and the -3i. So what would 4i and -3i get me? 1i, right? A positive 1i. That's it. That's my answer. Nothing special. Same thing if those were any other variable. It operates the same way. Okay? So if I jump down to number 3, here you have to be careful, because what do you need to do in this case?
Subtraction.
You need to subtract both of those pieces. So you need to distribute that negative. So what you're really doing is 3 plus 3i minus 8 plus 7i, right? Because you are subtracting both of these numbers, not just the 8. That is such a common mistake. If it's subtraction, you have to subtract both pieces. But now I just combine like terms. So 3 and -8 is a -5. 3i and 7i plus 10i. That's it. That's it. So, you might have noticed that I'm putting the I at the end. That is a little bit different, because if they were x's, right? If these were x's, we would normally write 10x minus 5. It is a little bit different with the I. So these are called complex numbers. And they're always in the form a plus bi. A is just some integer. And so is b, honestly. A and b are both just some integer, and then you would have I on the end. So it's really just the form. I mean, if you had bi plus a, mathematically it's the same thing. But just like when you write 10x plus 5, we always put the 10x first. Now, because I is really a radical, we always want radicals at the end. So you'd have a plus bi. Okay, let's jump down to one that looks a little different. 5. So, there's not really any, I don't have to distribute anything. So, if I combine all of my integers first, so everything that doesn't have an I on it, what am I going to get when I combine those together? -3. I agree, right? -7 plus 1 is -6, -6 and 3, -3. And then, there's no other I, so I just have -6i. Is this that bad? No, because i's operate the same way like any other variable, until you start doing things like, let's look at 9. 9, now I have some binomial times some binomial. So what do I really need to do here? You have to FOIL these together, right? So everybody take a moment, just FOIL. Don't combine like terms, just do the FOIL part. Okay, did you get where I got? First, outside, inside, last, and you're here? Yeah? So, I notice I have negative 16i and negative 4i. I can certainly combine those together. But I have this I squared over here. So remember I told you if you see an I squared, it's not really an I squared. It's going to turn into negative 1. So this whole chunk is now going to become a negative 4. Do you see that? So I'm going to have 16. These two can go together. That's just minus 20i. But then this is now a minus 4. And so I can keep going, right? Why wouldn't I put the 16 and the negative 4 together? I would. So I really end up with 12 minus 20i. And that's as far as I can go. Do you see that? So anytime you see an I squareds are really negative 1s. So why don't you try number 10? Without me telling you what to do. We got an answer? Maybe? So, when I foiled, here's what I got out. So check that we matched in step 1. First, outside, inside, last. Yeah? Does that match up? Now, I can do a couple of things. I can combine these two i's in the middle, and I recognize that that's now going to turn into negative 24. So when I put negative 24 with negative 40, I should get negative 64. And then these two would be, what, negative 28i? And I can't go any further than that, so that's it. Does everybody see that? So the I squared goes, well, yeah, it's gone. It goes away and it becomes a negative 1. And that's really what it's equal to. But a lot of times I see kids, they make it a negative 24, but then they leave an I on there or something. The I squared is gone. It has become negative 1. So that's how we turn this whole chunk into a negative 24. Want to see a whole bunch of people get a question wrong? I don't either, but it's going to happen. Everybody try 11. 11. You have answers? Okay, Phil, tell me your answer. Negative 21 what? Plus 20i. Maddie, you got that too? You got the same thing? Everybody got the same thing? The same thing. Negative 20 plus 20i. I have no idea what the answer is. So I'm hoping everybody got it right. Oh, that would make me so happy. First of all, the most common mistake is, for whatever reason, students forget everything that they learned and they think that they can just square both of these. They are wrong, because that's a binomial, and when you have a binomial squared, isn't it a binomial times a binomial? And don't we FOIL those together? Yeah, you don't just square the negative 2 and square the negative 5i. It doesn't work that way. If it were all multiplication, it would work that way, but it's not. There's subtraction in there. So hopefully you FOILed. First, outside would be a 10i, inside would be a 10i, and then last would be a positive 25i squared. Ooh, this is looking promising. So now, remember, this chunk will now turn into negative 25. So negative 25 and a positive 4 is indeed negative 21, and then 10i and 10i plus 20i. So if that's what you got, excellent job. Always remember to FOIL binomials with binomials. Okay, so before we do, actually I'm going to stop this right here.